programme, we visit Backwell School in Bristol to see how 3 teachers are maintaining their professional standards. Science teacher Zoe Bell is investigating new resources for Key Stage 3, while drama teacher Pam Gregory is developing her coaching skills in order to help her colleagues. But first, Head of Science Brian Kemplay is looking for ways to illustrate plant evolution and use to his Year 12 biologists.
What have we found out so far about biodiversity in the Galapagos Islands?
It's a little bit different on each island, due to natural selection.
Brian's arranged to visit Bristol University's Botanical Gardens with a view to bringing his students here. Curator Nicholas Ray takes Brian on a tour of a new walkway charting plant evolution.
Here we're in the heart of the Carboniferous period, some 300 to 360 million years ago, and it's when the tree ferns first appeared, and growing in amongst them were the giant club mosses, and you can see represented here. This fallen tree is some 20 metres long, but the original club mosses grew to 44 metres in height. It is very high.
People are a lot more familiar with the evolution of the animals than they are with the evolution of plants.
Yes, they are, but the purpose of this DAO is to put the plants in context, tying in plants, rocks and animals.
So the main focus of the visit would be to bring some Year 12 A-level biology students here to focus on the uses of plants to man.
OK, well, I think we've got a really strong collection down in the greenhouses. It's in here that we grow a lot of useful plants. For example, here we have coffee, of course important worldwide, a very important crop. Here we have a young cinnamon tree, okay, which from the forests of Southeast Asia. Over here we actually have a camellia bush. This is tea, from where tea leaves are produced. And this is a really important teaching aid, because of course most children don't associate a lot of the common things in their everyday lives, which plants they actually come from.
Nick has some of the products of these plants on hand to show students.
Most won't have an idea of what this is, this sort of rolled up bark. And of course this is cinnamon. But one of the most misleading ones, particularly for the younger children, is this. You know what this is until they smell it. Yeah. It's the vanilla pod. And this is the matured seed pod of the vanilla orchid.
The European herb garden is home to many species of medicinal plant, grouped by the parts of the body that they're used to treat.
It's amazing how many plants there are that are used for medicine.
Yes, still, round about 80% of the world's population depend directly on plants for their primary health care.
Brian's visit to the Botanical Gardens has helped him plan ahead for the field trip, as well as teaching him a thing or two.
The use of the herbs in everyday medicine in some parts of the world will tie in very nicely with the practical we do on the antibacterial properties of common English plants.
There are many ways for staff to undertake their own professional development.
One of those might be to go out of school to check out an establishment, to look at a field study centre before taking students, and in that way be able to prepare better for it so the students achieve more as a result of that preparation.
Isabel organises the professional development programme at Backwell School. Training must be relevant to individual members of staff. Isabel has had to find a way to condense information on a wide range of courses without excluding anything.
We have a CPD newsletter in school because if we didn't, I was aware that I was making the choices about which people saw which courses. So I decided the best way was to email everyone, reminding them of what's available in school.
Drama teacher Pam Gregory has signed up for a course to learn how to coach her colleagues through problems at school. Carol Gare teaches at Backwell and runs coaching sessions across the county.
Use the whiteboard and pen, but with the person next to you, just see what you can remember about the stride model.
Today they're revising an acronym that they've been using to remember the different stages of coaching another person.
You know, what are the targets that you know, where do you want to go now? And can you remember this?
Coaching isn't about offering ready-made solutions. Instead, it's helping the other person bring about change for themselves.
Is the idea to change perception or just to discover what the perception is?
Yeah, I think it's to discover what it is, and then
they bring about change their perception, to change their beliefs through their behaviour.
Exactly, it's all about them.
What was reality all about, Pam?
Real situation. Where does this work for you? Where do your strengths work? And what's happening now in this particular lesson?
Okay, great. So what about ideas, Jane?
Ideas have to come from them, and as Pam said earlier, it's very tempting to put in your own ideas.
Yeah.
So by carefully listening to what they're saying, feeding back their contribution and making sure that they come up with the ideas and taking ownership is far better. If they struggle, then maybe give some examples.
They're going to practice by coaching each other.
You just go and have a little go, all right, putting some of these skills into practice where it's totally safe and nothing's going to go wrong, all right, and you can just have a go and then afterwards break out of that and talk about how it went.
In pairs, they've got to discuss a real issue affecting one of them. Pam wants to create more time in the mornings, but this means getting to bed earlier.
I'd really like to change my day around, and it's like a big problem with that. What could you do to change your day around? To change my day around, I could actually make myself a time right. The book goes down, telly goes off at a certain time.
So how important is it for you to want to change that?
Very important. I want to be a different time of day person.
Carol comes round to see how they're getting on.
Did you come up with the ideas for yourself?
Yes.
Through the questioning. How did Sarah do? Were you able to think on that level as well while you were thinking of your responses? Because that's quite tough.
Yeah, it was quite difficult because we discussed some of the questions she could ask me.
Yeah.
And so we did that. But I did come up with a very simple. But very often it is, isn't it? Very often it's something very simple.
If you're asking someone to make a commitment to something, sometimes just the fact you said to someone else that you're going to do it can be enough to make you feel guilty if you didn't, and so on. And
if she asked me that commitment, I would probably...
Another thing Pam's learning in this session is that these skills can be useful when dealing with students as well.
When a child has lost their bus money, in the past they would obviously jump in and say, oh, you need to get up to the finance office and they'll sort you out and that'll be absolutely fine. And now they stop and they find themselves saying, well, oh, you have? Oh, bless you. OK, what are you going to do to sort out that problem? And of course what that does is put the ownership back on the student. They have to take responsibility of how they're going to solve that for themselves, and how much more empowering is that in the long run for the student.
Pam soon has a chance to put her new coaching skills into practice. She's been asked by drama teacher Naomi to observe one of her Year 10 classes. Naomi's having trouble motivating some of the girls in the group.
So how can you show that a group of children are pushing against a door in a barn and that someone is trapped? What ways can we use drama strategies to do that?
Actually pretending the door is air, but it's not. So you're actually trying to push against air.
When you could have people acting as the fire and then closing up on Donald.
What about use of space or use of props? How else could you stage this?
If you have like red lights or red, orange, yellow, flame-coloured lights going on him.
So the red could represent not only the flames, but also anger and danger as well. And then we'll start to see how you've staged this final scene. OK, off you go.
How do you think the girls behaved today in your lesson? How engaged were they?
I think in comparison to the other students, they weren't as engaged. They were involved in the lesson and they did work with their group, but they took a much less important role. They sort of hung back a bit and were led by the group. And then that reflected in what they actually produced. They were really sort of acting like props in the scene. It needs to be clear to the audience that you're not characters. Okay, I think you should...
Pam gets Naomi to think about how she wants to change the situation.
What would you like to happen with the girls? What would you like to get out of the girls?
I'd like to see them both being as enthusiastic and as committed as the other students.
Help! Let me out!
Pam wants Naomi to think about other classes that work well together. The girls in one Year 11 class are especially motivated.
So what do you actually do to engage the girls in your Year 11 class?
I think in my Year 11 class, I actually assign certain groups because I'm aware of who works well with each other, and I'm also aware of spreading them out so that they're working with people they get on well with and are productive with.
How do you form these groups? Do you form the groups in the same way with your Year 11 and the Year 10?
No, I actually don't. I do them in a different way. How I form groups depends on the class, so I do it, tailor it to the needs of the individual class. So with the Year 11 group, the reason I put them in certain groupings was because of some people's work ethic.
By getting Naomi to reflect on how she's dealt with other classes, Pam helps her find her own solution to the problem with her Year 10s.
So perhaps now I need to look at doing the same thing with my Year 10 group, asking them to write down 2 people or 1 person they work really well with and 1 person they don't work as well with on a piece of paper, which is confidential. And then I'll take all of those in, collate the information, and I will then put them into groups. So they're guaranteed to be working with someone they really work well with and not with someone they don't work productively with.
Help! Let me out! Developing skills such as coaching in school has a trickle-down effect. Pam is now better equipped to deal with problems, both her own and those of others as well. Science teacher Zoe Bell is looking for ideas to enliven her Key Stage 3 lessons. For inspiration, she's come to a Teachers' Open Day at Explore, a hands-on science museum in Bristol. There's lots for kids, both big and small, to experiment with here. Not every school science lab comes equipped with lightning rods and indoor tornadoes, however. For precisely this reason, Explore is designing interactive science kits that allow teachers to bring some of this illustrative fun into the classroom. Learning manager Edelle Fletcher shows Zoe how the kits can be used.
And they're being developed as activities that can go out into schools to be used really in the classroom for scientific investigation, which these are part of the Forces kit. I'll let you have a play with the go button and the ball, and this is your air tube here really. Right, so I'll pop it over there. Yep, just pop it over. Oh. And have a play with the actual tube. It moves. You can change the angle of the tube there and just have a play. Move it quite slowly.
The airjet can be manipulated in a variety of ways to teach the principles of investigation.
So you really could measure the angle.
Or change the weight of the ball, for example, as well. So you can do sort of all
lots
sorts
of variables that you can...
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Next up is a kit demonstrating the density of different liquids.
So what we have here, some tubes with different liquids in, little ball at the bottom, and you've got some little magnets that you can use to lift the balls up and then let the ball just drop slowly through the liquid. So have a little go with 1 or 2 of them and see what happens. So yeah, just leave the magnet at the top, that's it. So basically we'll be using this one to look at resistance within liquids, friction in the liquids, viscosity, all that sort of thing.
Well, these are great, they're a fantastic set of resources.
So you'd be
very
interested
impressive.
in taking them into school?
Definitely, definitely.
Zoe's enjoyed tracking down new resources for use in school.
Move your arms, take a step back and try and move it in a certain direction.
Pam, Brian and Zoe have each chosen their own development pathway, and it's been a good experience for all.
CPD is really important as a professional because you need to develop and you need to widen your experiences, skills and your professionalism. So anything that you can get to learn from to bring back to your current role or perhaps a potential role is really important.